Miss Nancy White. So happy to have you again, Nancy. This is so fun.
Oh, it's always a blessing and a pleasure to be with you. And we hadn't been together since last year, Delinda.
I know. And I'm looking, I mean, we're in it already, but I'm looking forward to what God has in store for me and you and our listeners out there. I mean, because we're all still here. And as long as we're here, there's still more to do, and he has more in store for us. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm in anticipation of what he has.
It's always great to have that good excitement and that fun wonder and that fun just we're trusting him every single day, and every single day is a gift. And especially as women, we have things planned out, we've got things going, but it really, we go, Lord, it's your way or no way. So
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah. And I like it. So today we're talking about something I think every woman entrepreneur that I know struggles with, and that pressure. And we're told, the world tells us, to balance it all: business and family and health and friendships and church and personal growth, and somehow still show up smiley about it. What I've learned is and this is what we're going to talk about, and Nancy has some great thoughts for you guys, is that maybe the goal is not balance as much as it is harmony. And several years ago, I really realized that. And I think, because harmony is, this is how I look at it, is that harmony is when the different parts of your life work together instead of competing for your energy. So if you're a business owner out there, a dreamer, you got a side hustle, whatever that is, we want to hear from you today as we chat about this. And if you want to put in, like, what is your one thing that you're facing this year that you're having a little trouble with, you want to give us a little feedback, that would be lovely. And just let us know that. So, Nancy, what do you think about that?
well, first, Delinda, I have for years have said, I really don't believe in balance, because that means that you're dead, you're not moving. And so that means that you're just static. But I think it's always going with the flow and prioritizing and regrouping, and just it's wonderful to make those plans and to seek the Lord for those plans. And just not just on a daily basis, but for your business, for your family, and you're at different ages and stages all through this journey. And again, we have to reprioritize things a lot of times. Just even think back, you're doing something, you've got meetings planned or whatever, then all of a sudden you have a sick child, or you've got something that's happened, and all of a sudden the priorities change. And so I think, especially for women in business, just looking at the way that the Lord would want you to prioritize everything. And then also, I think it's a little challenge for some women, I could say myself too, used to be, to ask for help, or to ask for guidance, or to ask for whatever that support is. And if we were supposed to do it all by ourselves, to live it, we'd be here all by ourselves. And so I think it's really important for women in business to find an area of women's support. Especially, it doesn't mean that they can't be in men and women groups, but I think for myself, over the last 40 years, like that, I thought about, oh my gosh, that's been a long time. But anyways, but being part of different women's groups and support, and finding those resources and supports, are so important. And sometimes we'll get in a place, I don't know about you, and we not get stuck, but we don't want to change, or we don't want to evolve. But you know what? We're always transforming, always. And so, for a lot of women, especially that are, just like you said, raising children, they're married, keeping the Lord first and foremost. They may even have parents. We keep hearing about the sandwich, generation. But I think as long as we're, putting the Lord first, and no matter what, then he's going to work it all out. Because look, we're still here. He's not finished with us yet. But just even think about your journey too, Delinda. Think about the people that God has allowed in your life to be that support for you as you've been journeying through this amazing gift of life.
Yeah, it really is. When I think about it, well, Nancy, you and I, for one, we met through a networking group. And
Mhm.
I have to say, number one on the list of building community and your business really does include networking, whether you want to call it that or not. I mean, I think for me, I never knew that that's what I was doing until I began joining networking groups. I didn't
Mhm.
know. I really networked my whole life. But we didn't know that's what it was. It didn't have a name on it. But when you're going out, it's just so important, like you said, to surround yourself with like-minded people. I want to go to a group where people are kind and respectful and, want to share their lives and really, it's about building relationship.
It
That's
is.
what networking really is. And so as
Mhm.
we're looking to build that. But when I look at the people around me, like you, the other co-hosts that join me, every single one of you are people that I met through a group somewhere. And what if I hadn't expanded? I mean, I was a little nervous about it. And so some of you maybe said, yeah, but that's scary and I don't want to go and I don't know what to do. And what do I say? Well, figure it out and ask somebody what to do. That's what I did. And I made some real blunders in the beginning. So,
Well, and
but
we
it
all
does,
do. Mhm.
yeah, it just has expanded my life and enriched my life so much because of that.
It has, and I've been leading networking groups over 20 something years too. And I remember one group that I had, the Heartlink Network, I had for over 11 years. And so, but when I would meet these women, just like you're talking about, we all started somewhere, but they would be cautious and a little bit apprehensive about going into a networking meeting. And I told them, I said, you know what, before you even get out of your car, this is when we did a lot of in-person networking. But even before you get out of your car, just stop and just breathe and set an intention, you know. And I said, the main thing is when you go in, you need to find somebody that's alone and, and partner them. I said, but while you're walking in, I said, visualize you've got Jesus on one side and the Holy Spirit on the other, and you're just sort of marching together. So you're going in prepared and you're going in with, some support for you. But I think
Yep.
it's really important, especially for Christians. It's perfectly, and I shouldn't say normal, but when we do have that little bit of apprehension or whatever, everybody does. So that,
Everybody does. Yeah.
there's some of those, I'm not gonna say type A personalities that just are gonna be, want to take over everything. But I would say, when you get in, especially if you've been going there, and this leading groups too, Delinda, when you've got that little wallflower, you've got that person they're new and they've just have gotten there. Those are the ones that you want to embrace first and foremost and find out, who they are and, and I think finding out about people first and foremost before you even ask them what they do. I think I heard the other day in this country, when we meet people, first thing we say is, oh, so what do you do?
Terrible question.
I know someone going, who are you? Where were you born? Where were you raised? Where'd you come from? Tell me a little bit more about you. And usually within about 60 seconds, you find something in common. You find something that you can talk about and you can just relate to each other. I think women in business, have this mindset, men are out on the golf course, doing business on the golf course, and we're sitting there juggling, doing what's for supper, what's for kids, and doing appointments and everything. But again, at the end of the day, like you said, it's all about the relationships. It's all about that community coming together, finding those that you want to collaborate with. And guess what? There is an abundance. You don't have to do business with everybody. You just want to be doing business with people that you're going to serve, and it's going to be a blessing and it's going to be a help for them. Again, that mindset, it's not what's in it for me. You've heard that over the years, but what is it that person needs today? Because I'm sure it's different from yesterday and will be different from tomorrow. But when we can come and meet on that ground of wanting to support, I mean, there's some really smart, intelligent women. And so we can say we're smart and intelligent because we know where God gives us our brain and he renews that mind every day, thank goodness. And so, but in this day and time, and you tell me what you think too. I mean, everybody is either embracing, using AI to a certain degree, or they're pretty much, I've heard somebody go, yeah, the Antichrist is going to be an AI. And I'm sitting there going, whatever, the Lord's the one that's in charge of everything. So,
Even AI, he's in charge of everything.
AI, it is. So thinking about women today in business and how different it is from you and I when we started, a couple of decades ago. But we want to continually evolve. So what are your thoughts about that too for Delinda? Because you were just talking about you're getting ready to start, or do a mastermind group. And that is huge because again, that support for each other, that being there in the ups and the downs, is so important.
Yeah, it really is. And I think that's so part of that building of community, but just each person, what can you think to yourself? How can you expand yourself a little bit? Expand. I love the prayer of Jabez where it says, expand my territory. And in my mind, that's expand my sphere of influence. We don't go grab farmland and stuff anymore, but our sphere of influence is our territory. And when I pray that prayer, which I love, that is what I mean. So Lord, who do you want me to minister to? Who needs what my service is? And I'll go back to Romans a little bit. We're all part of God's family, and each of us has a purpose. The hand and the eye, and whatever it says exactly. The eye can't say to the ear, "I don't need you," or the hand to the foot, "I don't need you." But the truth is, we all need each other.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's someone cleaning houses or whatever works at a car dealership. I mean, there's women in just about every field now, which is amazing. And we all need each other and how we can connect to support each other. And sometimes that way is through meeting through networking groups. And just one last thing on that, and then I do have a couple of other suggestions if y'all are looking for ways to, get yourself out. And, Nancy, I don't know if you've noticed, but as much as we feel like COVID is over in the pandemic, there are still women that are not back out. They say that churches still only 50% of church members are back going to church. And I find that amazing. And it's like amazing in a not good way. It's like, how could that be? So whether it's you connect back with your local church, get yourself in front of real people. I mean, I would love it. I love this, Nancy. But I would love it if we were in the room together and I could just give you a big hug. So there's something just wonderful about that. So think of ways, and Nancy and I'll talk about that for a minute. What are some other things besides going to an official networking group? What are some other ways you can get out of your house? And I have a challenge for you. Would like for each one of you to be thinking and planning and then do it. To at least, if you're not doing any, then at least one a month. Find some place this month that's live and in person that you can go to where you will be around other people. Could be an in-person Bible study at your church or someone doing in their home. Go back to church, whatever that is. So I think it's just so important. So if you're not doing any in-person stuff, get out of your house, turn off the computer, and go be with some people. If you're doing that already, I would suggest at least once a week, because I know that it is so convenient on Zoom, because you can do them back to back to back to back. You can get so many things more done, but you're still not the same as being together. So at least once a week, go to some in-person thing that you can be a part and build and support each other live.
And I think you're so right on, because the enemy wants to steal, kill, destroy, and separate and keep us in that mindset. And volunteering is huge. And one of the things that I continue to do, even though my husband has transitioned to heaven, is that the group that was so meaningful to me during this last several years is for caregivers. And even though I'm not a current caregiver, I still go to their monthly meetings when I can, because I want to support the other caregivers that are going through the same thing that I was. Everything that we go through is to help somebody else, I believe, in one way or another. And the other thing too, as far as, being that person that hands, that feet, doing something for somebody else gets your mind off of you. And if the challenges and things that we're going through, again, doing those little deeds of kindness for somebody else. One of my neighbors has been in China helping with her in-laws for months. And I'm watching over their house and going in and doing stuff and doing things, to help while they're gone. It doesn't take a whole lot of things to do, efforts to help other people. You don't have to do gigantic things, fundraisers and things, but you can be a part of it, like you said. But I think, for women too, going back, I think it's so important, Delinda, for communication in families. I remember sharing with some women years ago that were raising children and doing everything, and they're just going, they're going, I said, no, I said, a suggestion I have for you is on Sunday afternoons or whenever, at least once a week before the week starts again, pull everybody together in your family. Just sit down for 15 minutes and everybody, start with the youngest one, talk about what's coming up this week. What is it, that they've got coming up, what's going on, and everybody look at their calendar. And so that way everybody is being knit together even closer. Communication is huge. And you've got things that everybody has an understanding, and then life happens. And so then you have to go back and punt. But you know what? By doing that, we're training up your family and the next generations to communicate, which I
Oh,
think
I
is,
love that.
which
I
is,
think that's a great idea. That's great.
it's really, I think, it's good for everybody to stay on the same age, even if we've got grown children and, they're checking in with us, making sure everything's all right. And, communication is still huge, even just texting and going, hope you have a great day. I'm praying for you. What is this something I can, pray for you today? Is there something coming up? I think that communication is so huge within families, because you want to continually strengthen that family unit. And your family unit doesn't have to be a whole bunch of children. You don't even have to have children. It can be your family of Christ, your Christian family. It's there's a lot of people out there that really don't have anybody. And people are passing away because we're going through different seasons, and whatever season you're in, I think we need to embrace it, but we still need to be aware of, just like you're saying, of ways that we can go out and serve and to do and to interact with other people.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
but for women business owners too, and just like you're part of some amazing women, I think tapping into some things that women aren't just there to try to sell you something, but there's going to be those support systems that can help you to see where your business is right now, to find out, where you're going, what areas, challenges you have, because we're always, again, there's something we get to do, to continually evolve. And whether it's, clearing out your computer and getting more memory or doing something, asking for help or guidance and direction is a wonderful way. You never want to stop learning.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes people are a little hesitant with the word mentor or coaching. And the thing is, most every successful, I can't say every, but most every successful businesswoman that I've known has had a coach or a mentor, because we don't know everything. Like you just gave out that great advice right there about pulling the family together for 15 minutes. I mean, that's great. And that's so unintimidating. It's not like, tell me your dreams of the future. We want to know that, but, oh, tell me what you're doing this week. That's a pretty easy non-intimidating kind of things. I'd love that. But,
Mhm.
so maybe you're at a point where I've had numerous coaches through the years, and a lot of you probably have, and I've coached a lot of women through the years as well. So I think we always are in need of, sometimes I'm giving to others my experience and what I do, and then often I'm gaining and gleaning from others as well. And that's a really important time. So think about that. Look at that of who maybe you want to, and it might be something that's a person that you really admire where they are. Maybe it's not hiring a coach, because sometimes you have people that can coach and mentor you,
Mhm.
that are not someone you need to pay. But sometimes it's important enough, depending on, again, what season you're in.
Yeah.
If you are building a business, just starting a business, I would strongly suggest that you do, because
Mhm.
you will go fast, you'll go further faster if you do
Absolutely.
that. I mean, it totally really does. And
It is.
because I think one of the most important thing of that is accountability. I
Mhm.
mean, you just really, really need that,
Mhm.
and which is why I'm doing the mastermind thing. But I found this quote, Nancy. I thought it was so great. It says, "Isolation is one of the biggest enemies of women in business."
Mm.
We get so caught up of doing things, as you said before, ourselves, that we begin to isolate ourselves, and that is what the enemy wants.
Mhm.
And the more we pull in, the more self-focused we get, the less successful we're going to be, the less joy we're going to have. And as we open up, it's like opening up our hands to receive what God has for us. And sometimes that's the relationships, the people that come into our life. That's a big one, I think.
I agree, and I've always loved you always keep your hands open, so you're releasing so you can receive, but you can give, and so it's that cycle, and so we have to make room to receive in order to continually give, and I think you're
Mhm.
so right on. And before I forget, before my mind forgets it, but I wanted to also mention for women, there is a lot of great free resources out there. There's SCORE, SCORE. There's women's business groups that are in your cities. And even if it's not in person, but there's in online, but there's a lot of women business centers and things that you can take advantage of. You don't have to join all the chambers. You don't have to join things with all the memberships, but I think as women especially start digging and researching and finding that support system is so important, and be open to changing the
Yes,
support
yes.
system. You can change the support system. I mean, just because you've been part of something. The very first networking group I ever went to, oh my gosh, it was 40 years ago. It was a Christian women's networking group here in Charlotte. And I had no clue what I was doing either. A lot of everybody else didn't either. But you know what? We made the effort. We made the effort and we came together, and and I've still got some connections from that time that if I needed something, whatever, I could always just call and say, do you know someone that? And
Yeah,
so that's the important, beautiful part of finding incredible resources, not only to use but to share.
absolutely. And so for right now, the one that I'm most familiar with online right now, I'm not active in it right now, is Alignable. Is that one that you've used, Nancy?
It is, and I've met some great people through Alignable too. There's some other groups, and we love Kathy Weaver. Oh my gosh, I love Kathy so much. And
Oh
so,
yeah.
and just some other women that really do sew into different groups. There's Haley. There's some other Christian groups too that. And your group, I mean, you're a wonderful supporter, your community that you've been growing and building. So there's a lot of places, and you just have to do a little bit of digging. But don't be afraid to ask somebody.
Right. Ask somebody that you know that's active. I mean, hey, you could even use AI for that.
You
I
can.
haven't asked my AI. I have two AI assistants. One's name is Joy and the other one is Gigi. Depends on what I'm doing, who I
Yeah.
ask. I mean, I am blown away. It is such, I think it's just wonderful because it helps me clarify my thoughts. I just put my thoughts in and she makes it look great.
Mhm.
She just tweets it out. But there's just things that you can ask. So so I was in Florida this last week, visiting some great friends of ours. And as we sat talking, we were there like 5 days. And one of the things I saw, her name is Vicky and Craig, and we've been over 40 years, we've been friends. We were Mary Kay together and all that. And couple of things that fits right into what we're talking about this morning. So she was going for the first time to begin the first going to a new Bible study. She was just starting. It was their first time. They had a luncheon, and so she took a cake. Well, when she came back, she made a sheet cake, and when she came back, she had quite a bit left. And I'm off sugar, and so was she. She took the month of January with no sugar. I'm going for longer than that, but in any case, she came back and she had still had a good bit left. And she said, "Well," and I saw her cutting it up and putting it on place. I said, "Well, what are you doing?" And I thought, she is such a cook and person in the kitchen. I thought she must have something marvelous too. So she did. She said, "I'm just going to walk this down to my neighbor." Just one of her neighbors just is a single man, and then the two of her neighbors just down the street, they've only been there about a year. So she is such a connector and just such a beautiful soul. And I thought that was just so cool that she just immediately thought, put it on a plate and cover it, take it to this man that lived down the street. And I thought that was great. Another night we were sitting there talking, and something came up about AI, and she said, "Oh, well, could I ask?" She says, "I've never used it. I don't know what to do with it. People, I hear different things." And Bill and I were both said, "Yeah, it really can enhance your life." And she said, "So if I needed to know a scripture for this or that," and I said, "Yeah, just ask." It gives me a whole list. And um, so if we will expand our thoughts, which is what you were saying, open our mind and use things, everything. I mean, everything is of the Lord. Not now. Can it be abused? Sure. Will it cause problems in the future? Probably. But you don't have to, it doesn't mean you are or you're going to be contaminated because of it. But if you allow the things, yeah, if we didn't expand ourselves, we wouldn't even have a cell phone to use. And how would we live our life right now without that, right? So that growing and learning and um, keeping harmony between all those areas of our lives, because sometimes, just like in an orchestra, sometimes when you're listening, you hear the horns going, and then another time, like the violins are playing, because those different seasons, those different parts of our life need the attention at that moment. And I think it's just kind of a nice way to think about our life. But I've never heard anybody say the balance of being dead. I love that.
That's just me because I think we're always having to have motion. I mean, but and we hear about work-life balance and things like that. And just like you said, it's harmony. It is going with the flow. It's going, with the ups and the downs and the all arounds. And so we can't just be stagnant and do nothing. I mean, your heart's beating, you're breathing, all that's going on. But and people may agree or disagree, but that's okay. As long as people are working towards living the most peaceful and abundant and joyful life, while we're here, I've prayed that people will know and love Jesus and follow him all the way to heaven. And so, that's my heart's desire for myself and everybody else. And I love looking at big crowds. When I was in the airport, Charlotte's the 8th largest, busiest airport in this country. And so I'm just looking at all the thousands of people, and that makes me go, "Oh Lord, you created every single one of them, and you want every single one of these people to know and to love you." And it just gives you a whole different perspective on the value of each human being and what's going on. So, Delinda, I think I just congratulate you for continuing on with what you're doing and sewing in, especially to women. And there's going to be a lot that we're going to be coming up against, in the next months. I call them AI casualties, people that have lost their work or whatever. But you know what? As long as they keep the Lord first and foremost and seek and to do something and to become more educated with AI and allow, that to help them to evolve and to do some other things, I think entrepreneurship is going to continually increase and evolve. I mean,
I think so too,
oh
because
my gosh.
sometimes,
Mhm.
yeah, I think sometimes what has held people back in building their business is that, having the resources, and having somebody to, uh, uh, you know, I throw ideas out and say, okay, I love figuring out the names of things. Okay, so
Mhm.
give me 15 possible title names for this or that. So yes, I still ask my friends, but I really can't call you, Nancy, and say, okay, I'm give me, I mean, I would bother you all the time if I asked you every time I was trying to think of a name or a title for something.
Mhm.
But it's nice because at 2 o'clock in the morning, well, that doesn't happen too much, but about
Mhm.
midnight,
Mhm.
I can put it out there, what do you think? Here's my thought. So what can I call it? I mean,
Mhm.
that's only one single use. But I think if we learn how to use these tools, and God is just building several things in my life right now that AI is really helping me get it in place. So as
Mhm.
we look at this uh, topic of today, and particularly we've been kind of talking more today about business, which yay, that's a great
Yeah.
thing. Is that remember that you're not failing in life, because your life feels full and you're like handling a lot. You're building something.
Mhm.
You're built, and what you're building takes energy and courage and focus. And
Mhm.
you weren't meant to be alone. That was one of the things we pointed out. You're meant to grow in community with people like-minded. I think that's really important as you go. Sometimes you're going to walk into something and you're just going to get a bad vibe. That's not going to be your group. And that's okay. At least you know it's not. So then you move on to the next one. But finding those like minded people that can uplift and support, and you can build something together. And it's amazing how sometimes it's not what. So let's say, like when our five co-hosts, when we're all together, we could each have an idea, and they might all be really great, but it's the combination. So what we would come out with at the end would be so much better than just each one of us individually, right?
Mhm.
Like, oh, wow, I never would have come up with that.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it is powerful. So I really encourage y'all to expand your community. Probably have your priorities, know what you want. Nancy mentioned in the very beginning when you, for instance, when you go into a networking meeting, have an intention. What is it? I want to come out with, just two people I want to follow up and have coffee with. You know,
Mhm.
that that's pretty, that's very doable. You can do that, even if it's just one, if you're afraid of two. Just go one little step further than what you are now. So
Yeah.
Nancy, give us, Philip, what is your last words of wisdom for us today?
Well, as we started talking about, AI and doing those types of things and asking it all these questions, I want to encourage people that have lost their jobs to ask AI, say, okay, this is what I was doing. These are my skills and my gifts and talents. What would you suggest? What kind of business, what kind of things would you suggest for me to check into? Ask AI.
Great
The
idea.
reason
Yes.
the reason that you lost your job, find out, use that to find out what is next for you. And so, and then that's when you start building that community and that support system. Because you know what? We are always going to continue to evolve and, using the tools, using people first and foremost for that support system is so important. And, I loved your idea, do something, go out once a week at least to interact with other human beings, you
Yeah.
know, and have that heart of service and, have that heart of what can I do for someone else? What is it that I can do for you? Instead of going, oh, I just need, I. Turn it around to what is it that you need?
I love that. And that is true. We take our eyes off of ourselves. That, if you're really looking to walk into a room or someplace, there is always going to be someone that's off to the side that looks like, looks scared or whatever. Make it a point. You be the person to go in there and talk to them, and whatever it is, ask God to give you the words, but don't say, what do you do? It was like, hey, great to see you, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much. Thanks y'all for being here as always. I so appreciate you. Your time is the most valuable asset you have, and that you would take time to listen and watch us is just such a blessing. So thank you so much. Nancy, again, thank you for sharing all your wisdom. And everyone, remember that life is not a matter of chance, it's a matter of choice. So choose wisely and choose growth and connection and courage today and go out and make it a fabulous week. And we will see you next Tuesday. Take care and God bless.